Thanks for joining me on this journey of joy, grief, and authenticity. And I know you guys have seen how I'm starting to add some guests, and one of my favorite guests that I've wanted to have on for so long is my best friend, Casey. And there's so much to say about Casey, and I can't get all the words out all at once. First of all, the synergy between us and the love is so clearly real because we have these amazing striped shirts on that we did not plan. But this is how we are, and this is how amazing that our friendship is. We asked her and her husband, Jeremy, to be Hollis's godparents. She was there when Hollis was born. Mm-hmm. And she's really we've been friends for a long time.
We had to stop and count.
I was in your wedding. You would have been in my wedding if I'd known you at the time.
Yes.
And we've vacationed together. Yeah. We're running buddies. Just so much. I can't really put all into a few short sentences. So Casey's going to tell us a little bit about herself and her journey. She's been with us on our journey of joy, grief, and authenticity, but she's also been going through a journey of her own.
So about 2.5 years ago, Jeremy and I started trying to get pregnant, and it was in the fall. And just like everyone else, we think like it's going to happen quickly. In the first couple of months, it didn't happen. And then always in the back of my head, I knew I was going to do whatever it took, whether it be whatever fertility road that looked like or supplement. I was determined. And so I guess it was June of 2016. I believe it was 2016. I'd have to think.
Yeah.
We found out we were pregnant. And then about 8 weeks later, we found out it was an ectopic pregnancy. And this was familiar to me because my Aunt Cindy had an ectopic pregnancy when she was probably a little younger than I am now. So that was tragic.
It's really rare, right?
Yes. And where mine was in like the corneal, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, area of my tube. So like extremely smallest area. So we found out on a Wednesday that everything was happening and we had to stay at the hospital and be admitted. I had to have 2 shots of the methotrexate. And then we knew we were going on vacation Saturday to the beach. And so in preparation for that, I had to look for hospitals in case my tube was to rupture. So it was kind of intense. And at the time, we didn't really know what was going on. We knew we didn't have a pregnancy any longer, but we still wanted to go on vacation. And that kind of felt weird. But at the same time, it's probably the best thing we could do at the moment was to go and get away for a good week. Yeah. So from there, fall came in and we weren't pregnant, still trying to get pregnant. My hormones were all sorts of out of whack. And then I think it was January, I went and had another tube test dye done again. And it looked like for the most part, my tubes were both open. Again, there was a little hesitation in one of my tubes, which would have been where the ectopic was. But then the fluid flowed through, so we thought we had a green light. So we kept trying, and then my OB put me on Clomid, then letrozole, and then we get pregnant. So we're ecstatic. We're pregnant when Hilarie and Jamin are pregnant, and our friends Catherine and Bear, we thought, this is it. The 3 of us are going to have kids together. It's perfect. But then a week after we lost Hollis, we miscarried again. So it was an extremely tragic time. Yeah. God's timing is perfect, and sometimes that's hard to swallow, but I couldn't imagine having been pregnant all last summer and walking through all of this together, you know? Yeah. I mean, we would have gotten through it, but it's just been beautiful how it's all been laid out before us.
Yeah.
It was summer that I decided I'm going to fertility doctor. I was done. I was fed up with tests and no answers.
Done.
And if you know me, I'm determined. So I started going to acupuncture and then went to Dr. Chantillis at Dallas Fertility Associates and started running tests and everything. And we found out my thyroid was kind of out of whack. So I thought this was the answer. Lo and behold, it was not the answer. So then we started doing injections again. We did Gonal F injections with letrozole. And these didn't result in a pregnancy either. So I think it was November, I was really fed up at that point, and we decided that IVF was going to be our best route. You know, I read a lot of stories on Pinterest, of course, in my Googling, searching.
Google case.
Yes.
That's what we call it.
That it almost like horror stories of your hormones are going to be crazy and your husband's going to think you've lost it. And I would say that wasn't, I don't think my hormones were ever I was never a crazy person.
Mm-hmm.
The shots, I read, oh, that's the worst time of your life. They're going to be impossible. It wasn't even that. I do think it was emotionally taxing. We thought we were going to respond better than we did. We were told we would have 10 to 15 eggs, given my age. I'm 35. He was 35 at the time. And so we're thinking, okay, cool, 10 to 15 eggs. That would lead us to maybe 2 or 3 embryos. And I only resulted in 5 eggs. So I had a breakdown, of course. Our odds weren't high, statistically speaking. So Jeremy was very positive and saying 5 is his favorite number and everything was going to be fine. But going through that whole process of leading up to retrieval, there were moments where I was almost canceled because I wasn't responding. So they were upping my meds. And then even into the transfer date, I almost got canceled again. You take medication to suppress your ovaries, and so you're not ovulating since you're implanting at this instead. But I was the weird 1% of people that was ovulating at the same time. So technically, we could have naturally tried to get pregnant and implanted at the same time. Jeremy went up for that. I was thinking, hey, we could have twins. This is it. So we transferred over spring break. I was pushed back a week. My lining wasn't ready. I was upset about this, but then again, I'm a teacher and spring break was perfect. I didn't have to take any time off. Yeah. And then we tested 10 days later, which I did not believe the reality of the outcome is that we were pregnant.
Pregnant!
It's kind of weird. You know, the last 2 pregnancies, you know, I'd pee on a stick. This time, I still have not to this day.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I've thought about that recently. It was surreal and very hesitant because we knew just because you're pregnant doesn't mean it's going to be a viable pregnancy. We still had to go to 6 weeks, to 8 weeks, and the furthest we'd ever been was 8 weeks. And so crossing over 8 weeks was a milestone for us. So up until more recently, it's been reluctant. I haven't really read much, which is rare for me. I feel like I'm usually my own doctor. We are 4 months pregnant.
Yay!
With a boy!
With a boy! We just found out. There's some footage of the reveal and finding out that it was a boy is so exciting. And boy, Jeremy couldn't have been happier.
Yeah, sure was.
That's awesome. But you still, you know, you still kind of walk through this journey that other people have too, and people don't talk about it a whole lot necessarily. Right. What would you say are some of the most helpful things people have said or done? And then we can follow that up with what are some of the things that you're like, don't do that.
Yeah. Well, and I guess some of the most like helpful things that people have said or done is just listening and being there. Having walked through, and we're classified as like unexplained infertility, which is so frustrating because there's literally no answers. You feel like you're on an island. You feel totally isolated. And it wasn't recently until I publicly shared this on Facebook that I had other old friends of mine reach out who are also walking through unexplained infertility and looking at IVF. And so it's like as soon as you start sharing your story, then you're able to connect with others. And so I just think like understanding what someone's going through and the process, and people just truly listening, like a valuable listener. Yeah. I feel like honestly sometimes it's hard to find someone that's going to intently listen and try and understand.
You are one of the best listeners. She's one of the best listeners, as in like an active listener. And I've had great friends who are amazing, but I've never had anybody who so actively listened to something I was saying that all the follow-up questions got more and more specific, and it makes you feel like that person really cares, and you do, and really want to know, like, what are you thinking? What are you feeling? What do you need? So what about the most hurtful thing that maybe somebody said, including me? I told her, we prepared these questions, and I was like, including me, because when you were going through a lot of your hurt, I hadn't experienced a lot of stuff. And so I really, looking back, there are a lot of things I would do differently.
This is true, but look how beautiful it's been. You know, we walked through a season of grief before you guys did and other friends of ours. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, you know, who goes through it first. Just that
that's why she's my best friend.
It's just that we're all still together and we're still here and we're still listening and walking through it. The most annoying thing, and I'm sorry if anyone's watching this and you said this, just don't say it anymore.
Just don't say it anymore.
Just relax. It's going to happen. Go on vacation. When we're shelling out money left and right for fertility, like we're going to shell out money to go on vacation too. I'm just trying to get pregnant and have a kid.
Yeah.
So, you know, and vacation works for some people, but at the end of the day, if God's in control of everything, like whether or not we go on vacation did not mean we were going to get pregnant. Don't tell me to try and relax. It's extremely hard to relax every month when you're wondering, why am I not pregnant again?
Just because I've seen the evolution of your marriage just get stronger
Mm-hmm.
and stronger through this, how would you describe the evolution of your marriage from your perspective?
Well, at the beginning, when the first couple of months we weren't pregnant, and I immediately thought, oh, well, if it takes IVF, then it takes IVF. He was not on board with this because of the financial cost of it. He thought there's no way we're going to go into debt trying to have a child. This is outlandish. But over time and having walked through the miscarriages, his heart has changed. We both are reactors, and I feel like we're kind of intense people. And I've watched him really become very calm, especially with me. And just having walked through specifically IVF and all the appointments and the blood work and just the anxiety of that part, every time he has told me, it's going to be fine, Case. It's going to be fine. Don't freak out. You're fine.
He's been really strong.
He has been amazing. He
That's
really
awesome.
has.
How do you feel like your relationship with the Lord has evolved over all this?
Well, truthfully, when we started walking through the first miscarriage, I was in a season of anger. I was really mad at God. I didn't want to pray. And I was almost embarrassed to share those feelings with some people of how could I ever feel that way? This isn't right to feel this way. But I didn't understand. I couldn't, we don't see the road in front of us, and we were in such valleys and for a long period of time. And then with Hollis and everything too, that over time, and then having really walked into IVF, it's been beautiful to see and to trust him that he's got this. Mm-hmm. And the timing of everything with me being a teacher, when we'll deliver Charlie, just so weird.
Charlie?
I thought it was going to be a girl, but it's a boy. It'll fall over. I'll get Christmas break. I'll get spring break. He's had this the whole time. And every time that I thought this is going to be canceled, we're going to be moved back, it's all worked out every single time. That he's been in control. Back to our previous question about things that people say that are difficult. That's difficult to hear at times when maybe they haven't walked our path or they don't have the experience, because you tend to think, but you don't know, and you're searching for someone that does understand. And at the end of the day, he understands. So it's, we're very thankful.
Let's talk about our relationship. I mean, we really walked through grief and joy at the same times, at different times, simultaneously, totally opposite experiences. And we literally, I feel like we got to a point where we were like, we're just going to press in. We are just going to do this. And we do not know how to do this. Nobody talks about how to handle this.
Right.
And we're just going to be friends forever. Yeah. I mean, basically, it was just like a decision.
Yeah. After you guys found out you were pregnant with Hollis, it was difficult for me. It was difficult for us. And it had taken us months to where my cycle was back and I could start trying again. And so I was in a season of jealousy and it was hard. But then I remember, and Jeremy had to go get tested. It was December. And I was on Christmas break. And I remember in the shower, just done with feeling distant. It was after your birthday. And praying for our friendship, for us to be back together. And that day, we got the phone call that Jeremy's test results were normal, and I'm pretty sure I texted Hilarie and Catherine. You had said, I was just praying for you guys. And it was just a clear moment of like, okay, we're moving on. Like, I'm over my, problems, struggles, or whatever it is. Friends listen, and friends know what you're going through. And whether or not they've physically walked through the same thing, you're reading or understanding. I remember when Hollis was diagnosed, like wanting to know everything. And then thereafter, and what does it look like for you guys to have kids in the future? And just all of the little details. That way, I just think it's so important when being a friend that you're able to walk through this genuinely with them.
Whenever I first got pregnant, you had miscarried, but also several other friends, and they were walking through loss, and I felt, even though I knew like I should feel super grateful, I felt guilty, and I felt like I was on the outside looking in, kind of, and it wasn't for any reason other than we were just experiencing totally different things. I have to confess something that that I did with Jeremy and Casey, and Jamin and I, whenever we told them that we were pregnant, things to not do. Don't take your friends out to dinner and
your emotional friends
and announce to them in front of the public that that you're pregnant. And I don't know if I expected them to like be like, yay, like let's pop the champagne. But it was difficult because it wasn't sensitive. It wasn't I hadn't really thought about it through y'all's eyes. I knew that we'd all want time, to tell you guys first and stuff, but I hadn't really thought about it and really thought about how to graciously do that the right way.
But look at us now. Helpful
things that people could do. We have a really good example, both of us, of our friend Catherine. And we're going to make her watch this video so she knows how much we love her. But she has been the most gracious example of walking through difficult times together.
Yeah, so they got pregnant like right when you guys did with Hollis.
That's
then she miscarried, I think it was the second weekend of October. So right after us. And so I immediately felt like, I know what to do. I know how to love you well and listen and understand it because it was just so fresh for us. Then they got pregnant in February, I believe. I hope that's right, Catherine. And then maintained their pregnancy while we both lost last summer. Yeah. But she was beautiful through the whole thing.
Both of y'all helped plan Hollis's funeral, and all at the same time, she's carrying her prized possession in her, and it's been beautiful.
It was fun to celebrate her with her baby shower and everything, and dote on her. She's just been
so deserving,
so lovely toward us.
Yeah, absolutely. So. We love you, Catherine.
Love you.
Come be on the show. I hope that this is somehow helpful for you and some friendships, relationships that you have that with people who may be going through something, or maybe you're going through something, and this helps you articulate what it is that you need from somebody else. We couldn't be more grateful for Casey and Jeremy, and the four of us call ourselves the Dallas fam for life. Yes. So we've always looked forward to having kids together, and I believe we will. And so our journey really has just begun. Yeah. And there's a lot of joy in the journey up ahead. Yeah. So thanks for joining us, and come back next time for the next episode of Joy, Grief, and Authenticity.